Hi everyone, I think we are live. You can let me know in the chat if you already see me and all is good with the sound. The quality is perhaps not the best, but I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, I think we'll wait just a few more minutes for others to join. We have around 17 people online, so let's wait a bit. You can let me know in the chat how are you doing, folks. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for letting me know. So if we have a moment, because I guess we should wait like 2-3 more minutes, you can let me know if you have already worked with Silius or not, and yeah, what are you expecting from this webinar? Hi Xavier, good to see you. I have the chat on my phone, so I'll be checking it from time to time. As usually with YouTube, there's a bit of delay, so bear with me while I'll be answering questions. My idea for this webinar is that given that we'll probably have both people who know Silius and people who are just exploring, I will do a short introduction to what Silius is, and then I will focus on what's new in the 1.6 version. There are two big things that we have focused on for this release, and finally I think we'll have some time for Q&A session, so I'll be happy to answer some of your questions in the chat. Yeah. Okay, over 2 years. That's cool. That's cool. 2 years ago, yeah, that was yeah, exactly tomorrow we have the second anniversary of the stable release. So it's the Friday 13 of September. So that's cool. I hope you enjoy it. I mean, you're still here, so hopefully it has been a good ride for you. Hi and welcome. Okay, let me check how many people we have, because the live stream on my phone is not updating. Okay, now. Oh, 1.0 beta. Yeah, that was the groundbreaking release. That's when things started really. Oh, 0.14. Oh my god, that has been a while. So I guess you have seen some things in your Silius life. I mean, 0.14. I think there was that was around the time where we were migrating to new administration panel and rewriting a lot of features, removing some of the unstable features that we have added back again in the future, but with test coverage and so on. So 0.14, that was fun time, definitely. Okay, so yeah, for whatever reason, my chat is not updating the number of users. But I guess we can start, and there'll be some space for questions later if you want. So let me start with a short introduction to what Silius is in general. So this is 1.6 intro webinar, but I'll talk about Silius in general. So Silius is an open source e-commerce platform on Symfony. It has been, the first stable version has been released, like I said, in 2017, after a few years of development, and there are shops which are powered by Silius processing millions of euros in yearly volume since 2014. So it's been a while since the stable release, and we are continuously improving the platform. So that's why we recently released 1.6. So we also have a fantastic solution partner program of more than 25 companies now who specialize in implementing Silius for customers. And when it comes to technical details, can you confirm on the chat that you see my slides, because there is a bit of delay in YouTube. Okay, now you should see that. I think I had to quickly fix that. Yeah, so let me skip to the slide where I was. When it comes to the architecture, that's how we look at e-commerce platforms. So it used to be that the ERP system was doing a lot of heavy lifting, and the shop was just a detail, just another sales channel added to the stack of a retailer or a company. And yeah, so it was taking care of the customers, product information, warehouse, and everything. Then we have a period where there was a switch, and more and more responsibility was put on the shop, and we noticed that this is definitely too much of functionality put into these e-commerce platforms. That's why they become bulky. They participated in the race for who has the most features, even if in practice you will use half of them, because you need to integrate best of breed products for your e-commerce shop. So the e-commerce platform took over some of the CRM, payment, warehouse management system, and other marketing automation, mailing, and so on. But at Silius, we believe that when it comes to our product, we should focus on getting the core of e-commerce right and making Silius as easy as possible to integrate. So we believe in this integrate and collaborate to stay on the top. So like recommended Silius architecture would be that Silius is the piece in the puzzle, a very important one. I would say maybe the central one next to the ERP that connects best of breed CRM, PIM, and ERP systems into a winning combination. So in this architecture graph, we have API or CMS in front of Silius, and I would say there are three main main setups that we see nowadays. One is pretty standard. It's pretty standard and fully supported by Silius, where things are rendered server side. So just like most of the currently mainstream platforms is doing that, rendering things server side through Symfony and Twig. And then we have a scenario where Silius is used as an e-commerce API server, where let's say a native iOS app or React Vue.js application is consuming this API to perform e-commerce operations. So Silius is more behind the scenes. It's not the closest application to the customer. And we are also seeing more and more of Sylius and CMS combination, which is sometimes using headless, sometimes Symfony integration. Examples would be Easy Publish, that is integrated with Sylius, or we also have some Drupal and Sylius project. So then CMS is taking care of the most of content, including products and so on, while Sylius is used for the checkout and so on. So when it comes to the integration points that we provide to make this setup possible is that we have APIs. We have very easy integration with message buses like RabbitMQ and Kafka. And it's very easy to implement and use webhooks. But I would say the most important like technical aspect of the architecture that makes it really possible is the single responsibility principle. So we work very hard to make every piece of e-commerce logic encapsulated in one unit, one small component, and then use, for example, a state machine. You can be sure that there is exactly one place where Silius is assigning the order number, and you can hook into that and, let's say, download this order number if you want, or export it and so on, and so communicate with other systems. If you look at the big picture of e-commerce, of Sylius e-commerce platform, we have a set of Symfony bundles and PHP libraries that solve individual problems like taxes, catalogs, shipping, and so on. And they can be used standalone in any PHP or Symfony app, although I must say this is most of the time unique case. Like, let's say most common is that there are some e-commerce aspects to the application, and it's not exactly e-commerce is not the number one functionality. So then you can take some components and implement a simple cart or simple payment. This has been the case with, let's say, Laravel, for example. That being said, most common use case of Sylius is using the whole platform with the core. So the core is the place where all other components get combined. So products learn about tax categories and shipping rules. Orders get integrated with our promotion and coupon system. So that's where the core of the e-commerce functionality is built in. And then on top of that, we have three interfaces. One for the administrator panel that I will be showing and talking a lot about in this webinar. Then we have the shop, so a standard B2C interface with product page, category page, checkout, and so on. And then we have APIs, so that you can communicate with Sylius from your preferred application. Now, to get a bit into details of what's inside, I think what's unique about Sylius is that we have been a Symfony project since very beginnings. I believe we have been like the second Symfony e-commerce project that was out there, and this gives us, I think, the advantage of being like as close as possible to Symfony. So most of Symfony developers feel like home at Sylius because we follow the best practices. We use most of libraries from the ecosystem and so on. So it's we are not migrating from legacy to Symfony like many platforms are doing now. So they are Symfonish, I would say, or on the way to become, in some years to come, pure Symfony. For templating, we use Twig. So it's a modern templating system for PHP. Think about Smarty, but in 2019. And then we use Doctrine for as our ORM and database abstraction layer, so that it's pretty much transparent to Sylius whether you're using MySQL, Postgres, and so on. And then, of course, we have some integrations and plugins, for example, for Elasticsearch that are released as open source. I think what is also unique when it comes to, I like the title of this slide because it's modern IT department friendly, right? So I think we are still among the top tested open source projects. I would say we go even beyond testing, because testing with Behat and PHP spec in our architecture is a side effect of the main goal of using these tools, which is the design. So we are using so-called behavior-driven development, where we first focus about the business acceptance criteria and the business logic and the design of how different units and components communicate. We write tests for that, or to be precise, in case of BHAT inspect, feature descriptions and specifications. And then we write a failing test, we turn it green, and this is our development workflow, which is it's a bit fancy word, but it's called emergent design. So gradually designing your application through test-driven development. And it's important to note here that it's not just about test coverage for the core and increased stability, which is of course a lovely result, but we also provide a testing framework, so a set of tools and practices that allow you to use similar or even the same development practices in your custom projects or even plugins. So for example, every plugin that is built for Sylius contains a very small Sylius, like lightweight Sylius application inside, and can be tested individually with BHAT, PHP spec, and of course PHP unit, which we also use, and it's fantastic. Now, when it comes to some of the front-end and DevOps stuff, to be perfectly honest, we do not provide any kind of PWA or SPA application in Vue.js or React, and this is definitely on our radar for the coming years, either to integrate something very closely or provide, but there are already plenty of projects using Docker in production with Kubernetes. Thank you, Symfony, because that's we didn't really have a lot of work to make it compatible. It's just the way that Symfony is designed and the direction where they are moving to the serverless architecture. And there's at least a dozen of projects which use React, Vue.js, or Angular as their front end and just communicate. So Silius is fully compatible here with such approach. Yeah, some of the references that use Silius for many years now is Reiss. It's a UK-based fashion brand and retail store, and they published a very interesting case study with Platform SH, where they disclosed some of the numbers, like 5,000 orders in a single day, or 520 orders in a single hour. So, and they are selling internationally. I would say there is about 1,000 production stores now. The biggest stores are around 50 million euros, at least the stores that we are aware, because it's constantly growing number and we discover new projects almost every day. But I think what is interesting to note is the trend that we are seeing in the daily installations, which more than double every year, and an indication of like the technical direction that we are going for is that we are top 3 PHP e-commerce on GitHub. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we are top 3 e-commerce in the world, because it's not about the number of stores, but I think it shows that the technical direction and the innovation that we are bringing is something that developers, especially backend developers, are interested in. When it comes to the ecosystem, it's still growing, and we have some plans regarding technology partner program for the upcoming quarter, so stay tuned. But we already have around 100 plugins available on Packages, and it's important to note here that all the Symfony bundles are pretty much compatible with Sylius, so they do not necessarily provide like out-of-the-box extra e-commerce functionality, although I can tell you a quite interesting story from early days of Sylius, where on a short back in 2014 to be precise, where when we were still an agency and not a product company, so we were doing custom development projects, and there was this one project on a very short notice where another company was struggling to wrap it up. And we came in, and there was like a week left of development. Pretty big thing. There was a campaign in Wall Street Journal planned about this project, and there was so many missing requirements that were, you know, like absolutely must have. And one of the requirements was to confirm the orders via phone. So yeah, the system should call a store and ask them through phone to confirm the order and estimate the delivery time, because it was a delivery app. And yeah, so there was nothing there for it. Sylius didn't have such functionality. I would say it's maybe not the most advanced one, but not something that you would see in a standard edition of an e-commerce platform. So we picked Twilio as a tool to use it, because Twilio provided excellent API to make calls and even give you back the input that the receiving end could put on the phone. And we found a Twilio bundle. So I would say it took us 1.5 days to, of course, a bit quick and dirty, but to implement such functionality where every time an order was placed, there was an extra step in the state machine where Twilio was calling, confirming the order, and sending an email to the customer with, hey, your order will be delivered in like 40 or 30 minutes. So that's, I think, big advantage of being a Symfony-based framework, that there's already plenty of Symfony bundles for different APIs, for different use cases. Actually, on the same project, we had an issue with, it was hosted on Google Cloud, and there was an issue with SMTP ports, which were blocked on that, and they required us to use API. So again, we were thinking that, okay, we will need to implement these API requests instead of simple SMTP calls, but turned out that there is a bundle with simple configuration for that. So again, in a single project, Symfony bundles saved us at least twice. To quickly answer your question, yes, there will be record available after the stream ends. So I think it will get automatically uploaded to YouTube. And as you know, this year we also introduced a commercial version of Silius called Silius Plus, which comes with a couple of enterprise-grade features like advanced multi-store with multiple user pools and business units, advanced user permissions to configure different roles and a tree of access, and RMAs and multi-source inventory. Apart from these features, it also comes with our SLA-backed support and a dedicated customer success manager. So for us, it's a way to monetize and grow the whole ecosystem. But we are working on both of these versions about the same time, and in this webinar I will focus on the functionality that we shipped to the version 1.6 of Silius, which is available to everyone for free and still on MIT license, which we will never change. So, what's new in Silius 1.6? I think the biggest and the most visible one is refreshed administration panel. It was a while since it was designed, and we have now on the product team a fantastic front-end developer and designer, Szymon, who helped us to refresh the admin panel and provide a couple of quite useful UI and UX improvements. So I think the key thing about Silius administration panel is that it's mostly generated. At least I would say roughly 70% of it is generated. All the grids, pagination, filters, headers, links, this is fully configurable and customizable. So obviously what I will show you now is the standard edition. When it comes to the production stores that we see with our customers and partners, they are of course customized, and they have much more positions in the menu and different grids and so on. And the advantage here is that you can use these admin generators to add your own entities and your own customization. So recently I've seen a whole calendar of, I think it was events built into this administration panel. So it's really flexible and can adapt to your processes and not the other way around. So yeah, maybe that's a good moment to say that when we think about e-commerce platforms, and if you would say that there is a spectrum like from click to install to internal IT leadership and visionaries like Zalando or Amazon, we are definitely not click to install. Right, so we ship a standard e-commerce platform with the core functionality focused on developer productivity, and then you need at least one quite skilled developer. It can be Symfony developer. It doesn't have to be immediately Sylius guru. It's quite a smooth learning curve if you already know Symfony. But you need at least one developer to customize and to implement and deploy the shop to production. So there is no click to install plugins or upload a zip to your FTP to launch your store. This is not our target market. We are looking at either small, highly customized stores or medium and larger stores that require this kind of flexibility and their own processes. So let me switch to the Sylius demo, and we will start with the shop. So there is not much that we have done on the shop in this release, but we have replaced the good old, I think they were implemented in 2013 or 14, very, very long time ago, fixtures with something more relevant to the most of Sylius products, so fashion. So new photos, new products, new categories. This is something we have worked on with this release. I think it will make it easier to visualize how your store will really look like and so on. But still keep in mind that this front end is an example. It's a boilerplate code that you can use to implement your own front end. So I think maybe in future Sylius will have more themes, but this is definitely not the key use case. Like, okay, install Sylius, install a free theme, and then launch the store. This is really not the case. Pretty much 95% of Sylius stores have a custom built template for the front end. They're pretty advanced, and this is just an example. But let me switch to the administration panel, which is the most interesting point for us today. Yeah, so generally you will immediately see from the login screen that we have refreshed and made the whole thing more spacious and clear. It doesn't look like 2010 anymore. So if I log in as an administrator, you can see a bit updated dashboard. With the summary of some of the metrics, but still, when it comes to business intelligence in practice, most of the successful Sylius projects that we see nowadays, they use some external tools for business intelligence and just rely on the data from the database, or they integrate something for analytics. Yeah, so the first thing I can show you is the refreshed. Oh yes. That's a very good point. Let me switch this table. Oops. That's a very good point. So I don't know if you know it, because we introduced it a bit silently, but when you're on Sylius demo, you can switch between versions. So I was browsing the master version, which probably has some already some new stuff that will be part of 1.7, and now I'm correctly on this stable version. So the first thing we have revamped is the taxon tree. So it used to cause some problems with a lot of categories that were not lazy loaded, and the whole tree was very big, and there was some UI quirks. And now the first of all, you can collapse the whole tree, and each category has a nice drop-down menu where you can move categories up and down, create new subcategory, edit or delete this category. Right, so that's the first thing. Second thing is about filters. If you looked at order filters, this panel was a mess, and there was a lot of inputs not really aligned and not clear. Now it looks much better, and For example, the date and time filters are aligned, and simplify the whole thing takes a lot less space. Now, something that our recently recruited developers Tomek and Adam brought to us is a new list of all the payments with reference to the order and status of the payment, and also a quick link to perform state machine transitions, so actions. If you don't know what state machine is, we recently wrote an interesting blog post article about this concept and why it's useful for e-commerce processes. It basically allows us to structure standard out-of-the-box order checkout and order payment processes that you can extend or customize with your own in your own project. So complete is one of the transitions that marks the payment as complete, right? So you have the list of all payments, but also a list of all shipments that have a similar functionality. So now you no longer have to go to the order summary to view the shipment and ship it, but your fulfillment team or logistics team can mark these shipments. Obviously, for a lot of medium and large stores, these operations do not necessarily happen from this administration panel. So it's important to note that all these transitions are available as API endpoints. So another system can say, hey Silius, please mark this shipment as shipped. And then in the My Account panel, the customer will see relevant information and so on. So we have the shipments and payment list. And for those of you who remember 0.14, there are some people in the chat that said that they are working with Silius since 0.14. You'll be probably happy to hear that the product show page is back because when we were rewriting a lot of functionality before the stable release, we have removed the product show page, which displays the details of the product and the admin. You have to go to the shop to see some of it. So it's back, and it tells you about the taxonomies, it tells you about the options that this product is using. You can also have a look at the media files, at the media files that are assigned to this product, all the translations in different languages of the name, slug descriptions, and some SEO fields, but also attributes which are translatable, associations with products, and a list of variants. So also a bit of less clicking through stuff and browsing to see the details about variants in the list. For those of you who have a bit complicated requirements about taxes calculation and discounts, and taxes included in price and discounts distributed, we have revamped the view of the order summary. So now you will see a bit more details about what kind of discount was applied specifically on each unit, because when it comes to order structure in Sylius, each individual item, even if I order quantity 3 of 3 quantities of a single product, it's tracked as 3 separate units, and the taxes, discounts can be distributed proportionally on it. So for example, now you will see here if there is any taxes included in the price or not. It depends on your configuration, whether you set up VAT or sales tax, for example, Europe versus US. So the shipping taxes and the discounts are more detailed now in the order summary view, both in the admin and in the shop as well. Now a little nice touch for those of you who like to see who is currently logged in is that you can choose an avatar file. Rule number 1 of live demo, we have blocked this feature on the live demo to avoid some issues. So, but basically on your store you can upload an avatar to your my account in your my account section here, and it will be displayed. I mean, it's basic start, but we hope to expand it and give more visibility to the actions that are taken in the administration panel. So like order comments, order history, and so on, or who recently edited this product and so on. So that's the first small step. Now, this is a pretty basic feature, but I think a lot of you have missed it. Is that if I go and let's say edit a product and it doesn't work. The first rule of live demo, it doesn't work. I'll take a note to the team. I saw it on the some of the last sprint reviews that we had that it works correctly, but generally we added a bit of JavaScript that prevents you from leaving the page if you have some unsaved changes. Now, when it comes to editing products, we have added two small improvements to the navigation. So when you're editing or viewing a single product, you can quickly access the Manage Variants menu. So you can jump straight to the variants and order them. How do you want them to be displayed, update the inventory, and so on. But you also have a link to show, okay, this is not the URL for this channel is not configured, but basically you can click this button and display it in the shop. What is interesting for multi-channel shops is that if you have a couple of channels configured, then you will have a drop down here and you can access each of them separately. And one more small but long awaited, I think, functionality is coupon prefix and suffix. So if I go now and change this New Year promotion to be coupon based and save the changes, and now I manage the coupons and I want to generate some coupons, so I can specify a prefix like Christmas, or like it was, I think, New Year, let's say 3 random signs, and a suffix like 2020, and generate let's say 10 coupons with usage limit of 1 that expire at end of January 2020. So now you will see that the resulting codes will have the prefix and the suffix that we have specified, and both are optional, so you don't have to use them, but it's useful when generating a lot of coupons. One big thing that we have worked on in this release that you can see in the blog post, it's not exactly something that is easily to be shown, but it's the shop API stabilization. So we managed to fix some of the long-standing issues and release a release candidate version of the shop API plugin that gives you an API with let me show you the screen, which gives you a generic purpose API for customer interaction. So you can pick up a cart, you can add one or multiple items to the cart using the API, and it supports full checkout, so you can choose the payment method, choose shipping, and so on. There is still some development pending to support payments properly. Currently you need to implement a bit of logic on your own depending on the payment gateway, but we have also worked on the documentation, so I can show you a couple of updates that have been released together with 1.6. The first one is getting started with Sylius. So we have added a completely free written tutorial, and that goes from the installation to the deployment of a simple shop on top of Sylius. So there's a couple of steps on the way, like basic configuration, configuring shipping, payments, adding your first product, with screenshots. So for those of you who are not familiar with Silius, it should help you to understand at least the basics, or give it a try and experience how we approach e-commerce and e-commerce development in Silius. So I highly recommend, especially to those of you who are new to Silius, but I think even if you work with Silius for quite some time, maybe you find something interesting. There is also an example with installing a plugin, the CMS plugin from our partner Bitback. And yeah, what else is new in the documentation? We have added a plugin development guide. There will be a blog post coming next week explaining the idea behind it, but I can already tell you that it's another piece in the puzzle of our effort to expand the ecosystem. So this plugin development guide, similar to the getting started with Silius tutorial, walks you through the development of a Silius plugin. So Silius plugins, for those of you who know Symfony, is a bundle with a small twist in the naming, and of course you would expect that Silius plugin is specifically for Silius and not a generic Symfony bundle. But this tutorial walks you through how to start from the plugin skeleton, so like a boilerplate code that we provide as a starting point for plugins. So if you're missing some integration with Silius, or thinking about extra functionality that would be interesting, then first check GitHub. If we are not working on it, or if somebody else is not working on it, check the list of existing plugins on Sylius.com. But if you decide that, okay, it's a good idea to make it reusable and to share it with the community, then go ahead and use this guide to implement your plugin. We have also worked a bit on updating the documentation, especially the installation instructions and so on, to be compatible with Symfony 4. Symfony 4 brought a couple of new things, especially the project structure. So now I think most of the important parts of the documentation should reference Symfony 0.4 properly. One other interesting thing is that since I think it was 1.3 release, I mean actually shortly after 1.0, we decided that some of the new functionality that we'll develop for Silius will be available as an official plugin instead of like built-in core functionality. So there's a couple of plugins like refunds that are available, or invoices that are available as separate components, separate composer packages, because with Silius you install plugins just like you install libraries with any PHP project using Composer. So now we have added, for example, a section about refunds, and it's clearly marked that it's a plugin feature. So if you install Silius out of the box, it won't be available immediately in the menu, but you can grab the free open source plugin and install it and extend the shop with this functionality. While we have not released much information yet about the technicalities of Silius Plus, but I can already tell you that Silius Plus is also installed through Packagist, just the private Packagist version, the amazing product from Packagist team, where you get your unique, after you sign a Silius customer agreement with us, you get a unique token that allows you to access all the private packages that we have available for our customers, and then you install them just like you would install these free and open source plugins. So if you go through the book, you will find a couple of sections that are marked as plugin features. So that should let you know that this may require adding a plugin to get this functionality. I see a question about, will there be a section with explanation in the guide for plugins, how to upgrade the existing plugin to a new version of Silius? Well, that's a very good suggestion. There is nothing like that yet, but I will take a note to discuss it with the team and see, because it's definitely important. While we provide From what I've seen, upgrading a plugin, given that it contains a small Sylius application inside in the test folder, should be similar to upgrading Sylius itself, which is documented in the docs. Of course, some basic steps, but there is also an upgrade file inside the repository. That being said, I think a bit of guidelines on the release cycle, for example. So when you are upgrading to a new version of Silius, when you're upgrading your plugin to a new version of Silius, I think we could give some guidelines about what release cycle you should follow, like to make sure to release a new version. Yeah, as you can see here on the documentation, if you're not very fond of reading a lot of stuff, we have still our online course on pre-sale available until September 13th. So if you prefer videos, then make sure to check it out. And yes, one more thing that we should be grateful for our new developers who joined Sylius team this year is they have done a bit unpleasant work of reviewing and trying out most, if not all, of the cookbook articles and updating them to latest Sylius version. So they should be up to date with the latest version of Sylius and available for you to use. We have a couple of sections, and this is still growing, but explains how to add a custom model and custom translatable models and so on. Yeah, so let me check the timing. Okay, we are a bit short of time actually, but I think I'm done with the talking. So I'll be happy to take some questions from the chat, and we still have 10 more minutes. There's a bit of delay with the stream, so bear with me while I answer. But if you have any questions about 1.6 release or anything Sylius related, then I'm happy to hear them. Okay, so question about events. We have just updated Sylius.com events, and I think I know this guy who asked this question. I think I recognize this nick, but that's a very good question. So we have just updated the Sylius.com/events with all the upcoming events where Sylius will be present, either someone from the core team or someone from the community or our solution partners. So there is at least 5 or even more events that we will be showing up: Symphony Live London, SymphonyCon, and a couple of others. But I strongly encourage you to check out the hackathon that we are organizing with one of our customers from Germany. It's taking place in Oldenburg in about a week, and we will be focusing on hacking on Sylius APIs, but we'll create probably a couple of teams that will tackle different problems. So even if you're a Sylius expert or Sylius newcomer, I think it's a great opportunity to meet us. I'll be also there and discuss with other Sylius users, developers, and the core team. So make sure to check it out on our events list. It seems the marketplace section on the Sylius website disappeared. I guess you mean the Sylius multi-vendor marketplace section. Yes, so we have sent out a newsletter to the subscribe list, explaining that we have implemented a product for marketplaces on top of Sylius. We learned the hard way that it's quite tricky to get the marketplace domain in a generic way. Even though it had some successful products, and there are still some projects being built on top of that by our solution partners, but we decided that it's too early for us, experience and resources wise, to work on multiple products that are targeting really different markets, because B2C, e-commerce, B2B, and marketplaces, this is at least 3 different target groups. So we decided that we should focus now on building up Sylius capabilities for B2C, and probably shortly after B2B, and building up the ecosystem and community instead of dividing our resources into these two. But it's not set in stone that this thing will not come back. But for now, it's I would say the recommended approach would be, for building a marketplace, would be to use Silius as a foundation, and especially that these are very custom projects. So even though we have managed to build some generic marketplace functionality like seller panel and so on, given the unique nature of these projects, it was still in our standards not good enough to go to wide market with this product. Can you describe more about message bus? It means Symfony event dispatcher won't be used. No, we are actually Silius itself doesn't ship with any message bus that you need to use. So there are projects that use the RabbitMQ bundle, or there are projects that use Kafka, and Symfony event dispatcher. I'm getting old, but I think event dispatcher is a bit it's still used. So you still have access to the events. You can it's just, I think, advantage of Sylius that you can easily listen to these events and state machines and push them to a message bus of your choice. So that's the advantage. But okay, maybe the we are now probably in the upcoming quarter we will start a more intensive internal discussions about the future direction of the architecture of Sylius. I can say for myself that I'm fan of this event-driven approach. So we hopefully make it even easier to transmit these events in the future. But for now, it's still event dispatcher and state machine that is used. Thank you for the. Do you have? Hi, Peter, and thank you for your question. Yes, I don't have an update in a sense that we did something concrete, apart from the research on the links that you have sent me. It's very interesting, although I decided that we should postpone this decision at least until 2020, because we have done a lot of experiments this year already, and I think going open code with Silius Plus is yeah, another experiment. You know, we are into these these things like open source holacracy and so on, so we are up for a good challenge and good experiment. That being said, I think we'll make some decision around it maybe by the end of this year and set out some plan. I'm like my gut feeling is that that's the way to go, at least with the open code. I don't see a reason why we should hide this code. So this is quite likely that we will release it at some point. Of course, free for development and testing purposes, but not for production use. When it comes to the delayed open source, yeah, that's even more experimental. So we need to give it some solid thought before we do it. But it's interesting. It's interesting. It maintains the right incentives for us to continuously innovate and to not be satisfied with what we have now and what we can sell now, commercialize. But yeah, there is a couple of things to be, and I think it's interesting that the community also may have an incentive to contribute to such product, because in the end it will become open source with some time. But yeah, it's a topic for a separate webinar and community discussion and internal discussions here at Sylius, so it needs some time. Yeah, I think this is not a question, this is some feedback noted down. So yeah, if you have any further questions, then I'm happy to answer. I think we have like a few more minutes. You're welcome, David. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. Yeah, but I'm excited about the idea. It's just, I think it's responsible to give it some thought. What is WMS? Warehouse management system. So the thing that keeps the track of your stock, in simple words. I mean, this can be, of course, functionality. In some cases, it's e-commerce platform doing it. Some cases, it's the ERP. In some cases, it's a dedicated WMS. So that depends. Would you consider the shop API to fully cover all or close to 90% of the endpoints as of now? If we are talking about the endpoints that are available in the standard server-side implementation in the shop bundle, then yes, I think so. I would say, okay, maybe 85%, because I would love to, and there is a pull request open, but it's very experimental. It was written by a bit of the code by me, I think, which gives you a bit of better base for payment processing in a headless scenario. But yeah, with our experience with payments in such setup is that there is a bit of work to be done on the front end. Let's say for example, when we integrated Stripe, it was, to be specific, it was a marketplace as well. So it was Stripe Connect on a mobile app. So there is a bit of code to be written on the front end part to process the credit card, get the token, and then send the token via API as well to our backend. So this kind of endpoints, for example, to save the payment token or save the payment details, like not the credit card details, but just the information about transaction from the payment gateway. This is something I think we should work on. How PWA headless Silius will work? Well, it already works. I cannot talk about this yet, but we have an approval, and we are working on a case study from a very well-known brand that used Silius in that setup with React in the front. So it's already possible. It's just that we do not have any recommended PWA system. So there are some on the market. This market is really fresh. There's a lot of hype around it, but I think we need to make it's already possible, but it just takes the effort to implement the interface on your own, or integrate a ready-to-use solution. But I think it will take us a moment to make a conscious decision about whether we build something of our own or we integrate with something that will be promising on the market. In your opinion, are there any unrealized features in Silius that you would like to implement? Oh my, I have a long list of ideas. Maybe not all the features are for the core. I'm personally now I'm focused on sales and marketing of Silius Plus and working with partners and customers on that. That being said, in the upcoming quarter, I hope to focus on. Actually, I already started the work on this, and we have the partnership agreements in the making about technology partner program. And so this is my high hope that some of the features that I would love to see available in Silius will be realized by both us in the core, but also through the ecosystem, through technology partnerships, and the long-awaited but not announced yet and not planned yet exactly Sylius store, so the Sylius marketplace with plugins. Just to follow up on the question about features. I mean, I'm interested in commerce, so I have a long-term vision of really making Silius the commerce platform. We already do not make an assumption that Silius will be used for a website. So we have, and again, I'm looking forward to the case studies we are building now, but we have green light to do a case study from a pretty famous hotel chain that is using Silius to take in the room orders and so on. So there is long list of things that we can do with Silius, and I hope to spend the next many years working on that. Do you have plans to decouple API from the forms engine? Dates by default being... Yes, it's just insane. That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement that it's insane. I really have a strong sentiment for Symfony forms. In the early days of Symfony, they were they were one of the most complicated components. But I think a great feature to solve a pretty complex problem of transforming, validating the data. I mean, form, like if you think about a website, form is a place where many things connect. That's why I think backend and frontend separation is trending now, right? Because it reduces the complexity here, because the backend doesn't have to care about what was the form and so on. Of course, it has its own disadvantages, but nothing is set in stone yet when it comes to the API, but one of our solution partners is the company behind API platform. So that's definitely the first place where we will check for the future of Silius APIs. And I think they should be decoupled from forms in the future. But I think this is a topic for 2.0. Which is again not the date is not set, but we believe in evolution and not revolution, so it's definitely not 3 or 5 years away, and it's definitely not a replatforming project, but just an upgrade project. Especially asking about filter search related products ladies. Okay, so the question is about search and the shop API coverage. In the projects that used shop API so far, the category page and the search was done either by like SaaS hosted Elasticsearch or Algolia, for example. So we didn't really put effort into providing this piece of API, because the market answer was that the customers and partners prefer to use Algolia or Elasticsearch. But I think with the Bitbugs open source plugin for Elasticsearch, exposing what they have already as API shouldn't be so hard. We just had a discussion at the recent tactical meeting of GCC at Silius that we should extend the plugin development guide with an example for shop API, so that the plugins, the community plugins, pick up the topic and consider both interfaces when implementing features. So expose both standard Symfony and Tweak controllers and shop API endpoints. So I hope this will get better after we do this. No, you absolutely didn't sound rude. That was just funny, because yeah, I agree, there are some insane things in every project, and I committed few of them probably. Okay guys, I'm a bit short on time now. We are 6 minutes over. So thank you so much for all the questions and thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and we plan to do a few more in the upcoming future. Yeah, see you on GitHub and see you on Slack. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.